Hey everybody, welcome to the tech capital of the world. My name is Buddy Davis, CEO, founder of Foundry. And Kevin, I think we have maybe a very controversial topic.
Seemingly, which is
So,
weird, but
it's weird, you know.
it's seemingly. We thought we'd talk about boot camps because
Yeah,
we are one, and
we are one. Full disclosure.
yeah, we have. So I think we're talking about boot camps. We're talking about our particular case of this, right? I mean, we only
Yeah,
know what we know.
right,
We only do what we do. We can't talk about
right.
what other people have done, and some boot camps shutting down and fines that have been leveraged against them and stuff. We have an opinion on that stuff, but that's not us. So
It's not us. And so like, and I would say this about bootcamp shutdowns. I do think in any market, and you take any group of companies at any point in time, companies go in and out of business. And that's just the nature of business. Some companies are run well and some aren't. Sometimes the leadership is good, sometimes they're bad, and therefore they do it. I do believe this about the bootcamp market we've been doing this since the very, 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 very beginning. So like if you look when, I think Hack Reactor was the first kind of big one. We were there like maybe 3 months, 4 months later after them.
it's like about a decade now, right?
Yeah, a decade of doing this. And so like what I think sets Foundry apart from everyone else, and this is going to sound self-serving and arrogant and like overindulgent, but like we are built by people that write code. And I think there's been a lot of boot camps out there that are built by marketers. And so when the market adjusts or changes or whatever happens in the marketplace over the last decade, a lot of those companies couldn't respond to the challenge because they thought it was a marketing problem. And therefore they have fundamental beliefs about things that are just kind of strange. Does it matter what you learn? Does it matter the stack? Does it matter about how you learn it or something like that? That's why when one of those famous boot camps shut down, the CEO of this boot camp got on Reddit or whatever and was saying that he was going to take AI and take elegant JavaScript and turn that into a course. And then people were like, well, bro, why wouldn't I just buy the book? Because he didn't have any value add to bring into it. Now, he's probably a great marketer and he's in the sales end, but like at some point in this whole discussion about boot camps, you have to figure out like what should a student learn and does what they learn work in the marketplace today in 2024? And I think that's the fundamental question Foundry asks every single day is like, what we learning or what we teaching or what our students are expected to learn, is it relevant? And if it's not relevant, how can we change that? We also too, because we do code for a living, also run a consulting company. We're going to talk about that too, which I think also puts me in a unique position with like a unique experience set to really talk about how all this works. Not only are we out there teaching people to code, and that's not the only thing we do. We also have developers that build things, and what are customers asking us to build, and like what are they coming inbound like saying, hey, find me a guy, do you have a guy that can do this, and like we find you a guy that does X, A, B, and C, and like so like we know what they're looking for. So not only do I interview inbound candidates to employ at the consulting company or do fee-based hirements, also try to get students outbound to the company and looking at like what are the students creating, how does it line up with what's in the industry, and are we successful or not? And so we could in a short term create metrics that says, hey, we're 99% successful, everyone comes here gets a job and we get a new car and this kind of stuff.
You remember when that was a thing? That's something that's actually been leveraged against Austin Eldred and those guys over there.
Lambda School,
Lambda and whatever they are now, Bloom Tech, whatever. That's been leveraged against them. You remember at the time when we saw those stats and we're like, well, ours don't align with those. Like we're not saying
we suck.
90,
or it's like,
90,
like
what?
Like, how are they doing 90%?
We're
like it's impossible.
We did. We're like, how are they at like 95%? Like what's happening? Because we know that's not possible because we have people come to Foundry and let's say they're successful. Even the people who are successful, I go through the whole thing and they're like, you know what? Actually, I don't want to do it. I'm actually gonna bake cakes again because I really like baking cakes. I'm not gonna do it. And you can't count that person as a success all the way through. So it's like, so how do you even account for that? People quit. We knew there was like something weird there. We're like, it just doesn't seem right. There's something very strange about that number. It just doesn't seem right. You can't account for everybody. You just can't. We try to. We try and pick people who we think are going to be successful, who really want to do it. We try and load the front end, right, with those questions versus like taking people's money, training them, and then figuring out the back end they don't want to do it. We're like on the front end, like, do you really want to do this? Like, and you do interviews with every single person that comes into Coder Foundry to try and figure out that question.
It's the most anti-sales approach to anything. I probably rule out more people in the interview than you would think. And a lot of people think that I'm just in there and I try to sell them into the course. Literally what I'm trying to do is talk you out from taking it. And if I can't talk you out of it, you're probably a pretty good candidate. But if I can break you in 10 minutes of you questioning whether you can do this or not, it's not up to me whether you can do it. The number one question we all ask themselves a lot is like, why are you doing this? Like, what is it that drives you?
Yep.
So life change, regardless of what you do, is really hard. You want to lose weight and you're overweight, it's really hard to lose weight. You want to get in shape and run a 6-minute mile, it's really hard to do that. You know, it's like, so you need to ask the question, why are you doing this? Because if you don't have a good why, then when it gets difficult, you tend to say, well, you know what? I thought I wanted to run a 6-minute mile, but I really don't. You're saying I got to like train for this? Yeah. We also try to rule out candidates that think that we're like a gumball machine or like a vending machine.
Right.
You put money in,
the
job comes out. And you see this on social media that like they think boot camps are scams because like the
job doesn't come out. Yeah.
The job doesn't come out. And then like, we've never said that. No one says that anymore. So the number one thing that you can look at boot camps or college or self-paced is none of this is guaranteed. There is no guarantee in life, period, what you do. You could go learn anything from any instruction school, and there is no guarantee on the back end of that.
Yep.
And I think that's what people don't understand. And they feel like that boot camps can only be valuable if they can guarantee a job. We've seen this in like Reddit's like, well, if you can't guarantee me a job, there's no freaking way I'm taking your boot camp.
Yeah, it's like the only value add from the boot camp, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, please don't come here because we can't guarantee it, you know? But the thing that I do find interesting about this, and I think it's a psychology of the person trying to get a job, is there is a cost to a boot camp. And we can talk about cost here in a second. There's a cost of college. And then we have self-paced learning, which seems to be free to low cost. And on the dollar outlay, that maybe is true.
I would say free is like, I would say there's even like tiers to self-paced season because there's free and then there's like low cost. You could say low cost. Right. If you take Udemy courses or something, like there's still a fee. Let's say that it's hundreds of dollars, not thousands. Let's just say it's that maybe.
You know, and so like, and just put everyone in perspective here. The cost of Coder Foundry currently, as I record this, about $15,000 before your loan. Okay, so we have loan programs and those things. If you paid in cash, it's going to cost you around $15,000. And they're like, whoa, that's a big price. College is $100,000 probably. If you went to a 2-year community school, if you went to a 2-year degree technical community college, that's a little bit more cost effective. Okay, and for is like what you do. None of those have guarantees. And so like what we can say is, does my college degree, my CS degree guarantee me a job? No. It doesn't.
Nobody's ever made that claim that that's ever a thing.
Yeah, it doesn't. And so like, you know, is it more likely I'll get an interview? Maybe with certain companies. Depends on the company, maybe with certain companies. But what we're going to tell you is, what have we noticed that when we're interviewing, why did I hire someone? B, when I'm trying to get someone placed in a job, why did that person hire that student candidate? And then when we take a serious look at why do people fail at this? Like, what is it? Even if they go all the way through Coder Foundry, go all the way through everything that happens, and in full disclosure, not everyone that comes to Coder Foundry will get a job. Why do those people fail? That's the question I ask more than like, why did they win? Because I pretty much have dialed that in. I know why people win, but I also want to know, why did they lose? Is there anything Coder Foundry could have done to make that person more successful? And we try to like move around those edges. But here's the number one thing. If you don't believe you can do it, I don't think I can convince you can. Therefore, I try not to bring those students in.
Right.
If I can't convince you that you need to do it. So, or if you think there's this unrealistic expectation that if I take some education, it's guaranteed to get me a job. And that's just irrational. You have to do something. It's like you have to participate in this. If you ever interview to come into Coder Foundry, and if you ever talk to someone that comes into Coder Foundry, I use this analogy a lot. Instructors over here, you over here, together, we meet each other in the middle and we talk about coding, and you put in your effort, we put in our effort, and then that together can happen. But if you don't come to class or you can't consume the information, what do? And so what we do is to protect students that can't consume the information is we give them a 2-week look so they can quit after 2 weeks. And they're like, this obviously isn't for me. We've had people come in that have problems typing.
Right.
And we have to take them out because like you can't type. That's a base skill that we can't teach.
It's a barrier that you just is going to hold you back.
Yeah. Right. We've had people come in that don't know how to make a folder or just use the computer in general. We have to let them go in 2 weeks because those are barriers we can't overcome. So
those things that are hard to weed out of that initial interview, aren't they?
They really are. And the other thing too is like I make assumptions sometimes based on like, well, everyone knows how to do that.
True.
And so like what I'm trying to do is make sure that my assumptions are removed and I ask certain questions now in and around this, And our pre-work is designed to see if you can create a folder on your computer, to see if you can create a Git repo and get that push to Git.
Yeah.
With a little bit of instructions, but not absolutely step by step. To see if you can figure something out. Like when you get stuck, what do you do? And then we see 90% of the people that take this inbound board do it, and then there's like 10 or 20% of them that we have to give them 20 emails to figure out like, oh, that's your folder, or this is the hidden files, or this is the thing that you need to figure out.
And then we kind of have a vibe that's like,
probably not going to do it. Like, so.
I've got a question or a comment for you.
Yeah, sure.
Typical Lunchbox says, a bootcamp can be good, but there are so many bootcamps that cost thousands that provide no value. Okay,
well, let's talk about bootcamps in general. I think what he's saying, they can be good, but then there's some that aren't good.
Okay, true.
It's true.
Same as anything. There's cakes that are awesome. Exactly. There's some really crappy cakes.
Yeah, not all taco shops are the same, Kevin. We've eaten all the tacos.
Yeah. Not all tacos are created equal. True.
No, I mean
100% true. Yeah. 100%.
You go to Taco Bell, I would say it's loosely categorized as a taco.
Yes.
But in general, like, so how do you evaluate this marketplace when the market looks at coding bootcamp and then puts them all under that umbrella and says, okay, they all suck, or they're all great, or this is the only way, or you shouldn't do this ever. And this is what typical Lunchbox is saying, like, they don't provide any value whatsoever. Well, here's how you know if you got value out of it. Number one, you look at like, what do you build at the end of this course? Is there a deliverable at the end that you can take and show someone?
Yep.
Second, if you're paying for a bootcamp, and let's say bootcamp, which we would call the $15,000 bootcamp, let's just put it in there in that range. All of our competitors that sell this course for $15,000 or more, $20,000, $25,000, how do they deliver the instruction? If it's all pre-recorded, which is a lot like a lot of the four-year colleges are creating coding boot camps on the side.
Yep.
That's not delivered by the college, but you can get federal student loan and all that kind of stuff. It's all pre-recorded content.
Right. Which is like our self-paced course.
Yeah, like our self-paced course. In our opinion, as good as that pre-recorded stuff can be, and we make stuff like I'm making a Blazor course right now for pre-recorded content, I don't think a pre-recorded course is worth $15,000. Okay, it's worth more in the long of what we sell it for at $99
hundreds,
a
not
month.
Thousands.
Yeah, hundreds, not thousands. The reason is because you can't ask an instructor anything except through email. We do have email support. We have you can type a question on the learning platform or Discord and we answer it. What I mean by ask instructor is, hey, Bobby, how do I do this? Yeah. I was confused right here in the moment when they're coding. That's what live instruction does. So if you don't have live instruction, the instruction's pre-recorded. The deliverables at the end of the course either don't tell you or it's kind of janky, then I don't think that's a good boot camp. And I do think a lot of boot camps targeted the basics of coding, and they don't say what we deliver turns into jobs. Because what we define a junior developer here is what Coder Foundry will tell you when you're coming in. What typical Lunchbox is saying, what Reddit's saying, what a lot of people on Twitter are saying. To get a junior dev job, they're saying no one hires juniors. They say the skills are down here. HTML, CSS, and maybe a little JavaScript. That's all you need to know. I'm telling you, and you don't have to believe me, the skills are higher. And so the companies define junior developer differently than what the learner does. The learner literally believes I can go to Udemy and take one course and then I can go get a 100K job.
Right.
And that's not what anyone has ever said. It's just what has developed over the years out of this. Like, oh, it's easy. It's like, it's akin to weight loss, man. A lot of people think I just need to like do this, take this pill or do this and I'll lose weight, or I can get in shape by not going to the gym. You're going to have to code in order to be able to do this. And the skills, I think right now to get a web dev job, and we're talking about web development. So if you're talking about game development, it's different. If you're talking about desktops, it's different. Web development jobs, you need to have on your resume, even if it's a front end job. And you're like, I just learned React and I'm just a front end guy. You got to know how to hit a database. You got to know how to set up Node.js on your back end, have something like MySQL or Postgres or something like that, be able to hit an API endpoint, even stand up an API endpoint and be able to call that and create a front end for it. If you can't do that, you're just the reason you're getting turned down is because your skills are down here and the market wants them up here. And I've seen a ton of people say, well, if I could do that, I would just start my own company. And it tells me that you don't know what full stack development is. You don't know the difference between a junior and a senior. And they think that, well, those are senior level projects. And we're like, nah, bro, it gets way harder than that.
Right,
like,
right.
Like,
it's not.
That's not hard. Like that's not on the scale of hard. That's not it. You know, like, and so like, I think today you got to look at full stack web development on your portfolio, whether you're targeting other jobs or not. And what I mean by full stack, I can build a front end. I can call an endpoint on the back end somehow, either through a controller or web API endpoint, and that endpoint will interface with the database. On top of that, I think you got to know auth too. And so when you come out of Coder Foundry, we're talking about authorization. You can log into something. There's business logic in the server side of that. And then that business logic also accesses the database. And that, I think, is where the skills are. And that's, to a lot of people, that's up to here. On top of all that, I think you need to know HTML, CSS at a pretty competent level to be able to build a UI that looks reasonable.
100%.
We're going to talk about why people lose in a second, and you're going to see that's not what we do here. And like, that's what we do. It's at a different level. And I think that's why we're still here, because we focus on the quality of the candidate coming out, and we have aspirational levels like what someone can learn in 12 weeks. Here's the other thing that I think that all bootcamps do say 12-week programs.
Yeah, most
go to class 2 times a week.
Right. Yeah, we've talked about this a lot here, haven't we? We talk about the difference between a lot of these things, and this comes up in a few different places across this journey, and we'll come back to this. But calendar time versus seat time, or whatever you want to call it.
Seat time. We call it seat time.
Seat time. Right. Those two things, because we see that a lot, and this is one of them where it's like, well, I've done a 12-week course. Yeah, but how many hours have you put in doing that? Oh, it's once a week for 3 hours. Like, okay, so so you're 36 hours in.
Yeah. You can't learn this in 5 days. Like, and so that's literally what people are trying to do. And so so the boot camp, if you're going on Tuesdays and Thursdays, on the Tuesday and Thursday, that's a pre-recorded session. Maybe you have office hours on Thursday afternoon from 3 to 4, and you're in competition with all the other 100 people in the boot camp. It's probably not going to work for you, right? Now, I will say this too. There are people, and I put them in the 10% range, that you can hand a book and they'll learn from the book, and they'll be able 100%, to do it.
No question. That's just a group
come
of
to
people.
Our boot camp a lot. And you're like, why are you here, dude? Like what are you doing?
No, that's true. Some people have been like, you didn't need us.
You didn't need us. But they do need the structure, and I think that's the other thing boot camps provide. So here's the other often overlooked thing about self-paced learning that people just don't appreciate, and you see it when they apply for jobs, is they don't have a structured learning path. And so they don't they don't know to build a stack. And they just go to Reddit, what should I learn? And you'll see the overwhelming choices. Learn Python, bro. That's all you need to learn is Python. Or learn JavaScript. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. And so they take JavaScript course, or they take a Python course, or they take both. And then they're learning something like Django. I heard about that. Let me dabble in that. And they never develop a focused stack that they can trade on when they go to market. And so therefore their skills aren't aligned to any job out there at all. They're just a lot of courses that I've took, but I haven't like put it all together to make something with it. And I do think that at Coder Foundry, we take a definitive stance, and you can like the stance or not like the stance. But if you come to Coder Foundry, we're going to learn .NET Blazor, and that's what we're going to market with when we go look for jobs, .NET Blazor, because our stack is going to align with a job requisition that comes out, like a job posting. And that's what we're going to do. And that, I think that's what other people, when they self-learn, they don't even know what the stack is. They're on random, what I would call random Reddits, and they get a
chasing trends.
A lot of trends. They got a lot of information in there, and they're like, oh, I guess it doesn't matter. And then they get from the 30-year vet or the 20-year vet is in these like learn to code Reddits, and like, it doesn't matter what you learn. Programming languages are just a tool. And that's what you take to your job as a tool. And it doesn't matter what you know. And I'm like, well, if it didn't matter what you knew, but the company has built everything in .NET, guess what you need to know to get a job there? I don't care if you've been coding for 30 years. You need to know .NET to get there. You're not going to get hired if you're like, you spent your whole life in Java, because 10 other dudes are going to apply with .NET skills. And you probably could learn it. You could probably reach over to it. But until you demonstrate it, they're going to pick the other people doing it. And that's why you're going to apply to Java roles. That's why we specialize. Are there people that they call them polyglots? I love this word. Like, I'm a polyglot, man. It doesn't matter, bro. I can learn anything at any time, anywhere. And I'm instant knowledge. I'm like, it's not true, man. Like, there may be 1% of you that are like that, okay? Like 3% of us. Most of us have to build an experience in a stack and then trade on that stack in the marketplace. And then when we want to switch over, we got to spend a little bit of time ramping up on something else. That's what we have to do. Most of us can't just say, hand me a React project, and all I've ever done is Angular. I would be lost on day one about what to do and how to do it. Are there simulators between them? Yeah, there are. Could you learn it? Yes. Do they want to pay you to learn it? That's the question.
Yep,
or would they pay someone else that already knows how to do it, and they're going to pay the person that already knows how to do it? And so the number one thing in the job search is misalignment when they apply to a job. They don't know what stack it is. They don't know where they fit in the marketplace. So they just blindly apply to 1,000 jobs. And that's why we get these comments that we saw on YouTube yesterday. Like, I've applied to, he called me a shill for the bootcamp, which is fine.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
We are selling the bootcamp.
I did see that.
You can go look it up. But like he said, that I've applied to 1,000 jobs and no one's hiring it. I'm like, okay. So I asked him, you can see my comment. You can go look on the comment where I say, hey, send me your stuff. Let me review it for you. I'm sorry that you're struggling with that. Did I get an answer from him? No.
Not yet. We may. You never know. We may.
Maybe one day.
We have had some before. Oh, here's the thing. We did have one of those, right? Remember the guy that we had? Whose portfolio was actually good. He sent us in his thing. He was like, "Oh, I applied. It wasn't 1,000. He'd done hundreds or something." He's like, "I applied for hundreds of jobs." I was like, "Send in your portfolio and resume." So he sends in his portfolio, and this brings up a good point that while his portfolio was good, you remember the domain of his projects? Let's talk about that real quick. The domain of his projects was a bad choice. He chose to make an e-commerce store, but it was for vapes. Like, whatever you think about that, it's the wrong domain choice. It does not scream, I am a professional. It screams, I want to sit at home on the couch. Like, it just does. Whether that's right or wrong to stereotypically think of that, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
His domain was wrong.
If you had worked for the vaping company and that's what you worked on, that's different. This was his side project. Yeah, where he did it. And so, like, I think portfolios is the number one way that you can get notice of an employer. The problem with portfolios is that notification can be good or it can be bad.
Yeah, a bad portfolio, we've talked about this a lot, a bad portfolio is worse than not having one.
No portfolio.
Unfortunately.
So, like, it's really bad. So, like, what we do here at Coder Foundry, what we've done is now we have we've went from allow the student to like build a portfolio on their own and we give them some guidance, to now where pick a template, to now where let's build a template together. That's where we're at right now. And here is the color palettes you can pick from. We have about 25, and you have to pick from one of these color palettes to colorize your thing. If you go off that color palette, you have to get it approved by the instructor.
Yep.
We're going to reject it.
People will choose bad color palettes all the time.
Yeah. And I remember one guy picked his palette. This was several years ago. It was the palette from his college, and it was purple and gold. And this is where it comes from. Yeah. Purple and gold looks great on a Lakers uniform. It looked great, and on the uniforms that you played college basketball with. Yeah. It looks terrible on a website. Like, you need to pick colors that are A, readable, and B, they're not hard to read. In other words, like reds or golds or purples are hard to read unless you use them as a highlight color. But if you use them as the main color, yellow backgrounds everywhere, it's next to impossible to read.
It's tough.
I mean, like, it's tough, and it looks harsh and ugly. And so you need to be more, in today's palette is more muted, what I would say. If you look at the current trends of palettes, it's a more muted palette now, where everyone's using muted background colors and using a lot of like dark grays and whites. And that's what we do at Coder Foundry. We'll change our palette when we feel like that's looking kind of dated. Let's change the colors around a little bit. So I think that's the number one reason is you have a bad looking portfolio. And we've got an example where I was on LinkedIn. Someone said, I've been looking for 3 years.
3 years. Yeah.
3 years. And then he attached his portfolio. And we've got now we took screenshots from it for a reason, because we don't want to embarrass this person if they happen to be watching. But if you do recognize your portfolio and you're watching here, we're not making fun of you. We want you to improve, but we can tell you why you've been looking for 3 years based on this.
100%. It 100% comes down to the portfolio. This was so I would go through these screenshots. I'm not going to spend too much time on these, but I've blanked out the personal details for the person. But this was their landing page, and we're like, okay. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the blue and black, because again, color palette.
I'm not a big fan of H1 Hello World either.
Yeah, this part's weird too. I know. If we were reviewing this, I would definitely say that. I blanked out the person. This was the person's image and name, by the way, just so I blanked that out. These were the apps that they had then. So we're like, oh, okay. And as soon as we hit this section, we're like, oh, I know why. I know why. I'm not getting a job. So to go through each of these ones, the first one, this Dev Squared app was behind an account. I couldn't even get in. I didn't want to register, and I couldn't even get in because there was no dummy accounts.
No demo login.
No demo logins on that. So I didn't get anything past that. But also the design, just down the middle, standard boxes. I'm just like, oh, okay. This was the Anime Hunter app. It's
just the wrong domain. Like,
wrong domain and a bad version of it, by the way.
And it's a bad version on top of that, so like this isn't like, really good design. It's bad design. And then it's got, I don't know if you would call this image in NSW, not safe for work.
I mean,
it's
slightly
close.
Salacious. Yeah.
It's close.
But a lot of this anime stuff is. That's the thing, right? Like
that's the point. That's why you don't pick it. But like, it's kind of bad, and it also doesn't scream professionalism. This is like, I'm still into Anime Hunter. Like, why did you pick this app? This is what you picked. Probably because there is an API that you can get to on the back end of this, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. The next one was your favorite as a Pokemon.
We've been raging against Pokemon for 10 years.
We will continue to rage against Pokemon.
Do not put Pokemon on your website. Like, it's stupid. Like, the reason is the domain is the domain of a kid's game. Do people play competitive Pokemon, Kevin? You may not know this. Yes, there's a competitive Pokemon scene. Are you a child if you're 35 years old playing Pokemon? No. But when you put it on your portfolio saying, hey, look what I can do, it doesn't scream professional. And so what we say is all apps should solve a business problem, and a Pokemon trading game doesn't ever do that.
Yep. And then the last one was another game too, by the way, like a Wheel of Fortune game, which if you have anything like this on your portfolio, the game alone is like, it's not very good. But please, images, like
aspect ratio, man.
Oh, you're killing me. Like this like personally offends me. I'm seeing this image.
So here's the scary version of this picture, and we do this with students a lot. So students will come in and they'll show us stuff, and we'll see something that's like overtly obvious wrong. And we used to point it out and say, fix that.
Yeah.
But now we ask a more detailed question because we've realized in all our terms when we're coaching people is they can't tell that it's wrong. They don't know that it's wrong. And so we'll say, there's something wrong with this picture on this image on this website, or there's something wrong with this webpage. Tell me what it is.
Yeah, I like that.
Look hard. Difficultly look at it. Be objective. It's not yours anymore. This isn't 5 stars from grandma. You know, this isn't kindergarten. This is real life. I want to get you a job with this thing. Tell me what's wrong with this picture. And usually they'll find it. And so attention to detail is highly, highly sought after in the industry because like if you can't see that stretched image is wrong right off the bat, like what else are you missing?
I mean, the person looking at this will certainly be able to tell. The person that you've sent your resume to, your portfolio to, will certainly know that it's wrong.
And
this
then
person's
again, it was
getting soft nose.
Soft nose all day long. What we say is you apply 1,000 times and you get 1,000 soft no rejections. They say, I got ghosted.
It's just crickets, right? They're like, I just hear crickets.
Crickets. I'm going to tell you why you're getting crickets, but the number one reason you're getting crickets is your LinkedIn profile doesn't scream developer and your portfolio isn't modern. It's not well designed. It has typos. And then your projects are super weak and the projects are in the wrong domain. So your project must solve a business problem, a recognizable business problem. And this is why we scream at getting this advice too. Is like people say, I'm not building a boat tracker, Bobby. It's boring. I don't want to do that. It's stupid. Yeah. It's a stupid business project. I would go out. I would pull my eyes out. You know, like okay.
Nobody's going to buy my bug tracker. That's the other like misconception.
Yeah. Like we're not trying to sell it. We're trying to sell it into a job. We're trying to turn it into a job, but we're not trying to sign up users for a bug tracker. If you signed up, I heard someone said, if you don't have 1,000 users on your bug tracker, don't bother showing it to me because they were kind of rating against me. I'm like, but 1,000 users paying me $9 a month on the bug tracker.
Guess what? You're in business. Exactly.
I'm in business at that point. You know, like wow. I mean, that's pretty good. So that's not the point. The point is people don't understand that we build projects that are recognizable, so that when you show it, the guy sitting across the desk from you, the person interviewing you, says, "Oh, I know what a bug tracker is. I know exactly what that is. I know I can see a good one and I can see a bad one, and I know exactly what this has got to do." I heard a boot camp advice. An instructor from a boot camp called me out on LinkedIn and says, "We would never advise building a bug tracker." And I was like, "Why?" He says, "Because it's already been solved. Jira already has one." I'm like, that's not why you build it. We're not trying to compete with Jira. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to give the student a demo artifact that both of the audience, the person viewing it and the person who built it, can have a common discussion about a common set of problems. That's all we're trying to do. If you go out there and say, build your passion project, and the person looking at it has no idea what it's supposed to do. They have no idea what the problem is or anything like that. Or even worse, they think the problem it solves is stupid. You've lost them right away. Yep. A bug tracker is something in the middle that says, hey, we both know what this is. Let me show you my take on this, you know? And so we've always said this a lot. If you were trying to draw for Marvel, you would submit Spider-Man or, you know, the X-Men drawing Wolverine or something like that, because they can evaluate that. If you come with your own custom character, while they can evaluate the art a little bit, they might go, well, what's the power set of this custom character? You know, well, he eats tacos a lot and that gives him super strength. So he's like Popeye with tacos. Yeah, okay, that's stupid. You know, so like, and that's what we're doing. We can build a business app around the Pokemon API, but they're going to think the domain's stupid. Second, if they don't understand the problem, they think the project's stupid. And so what you want to do is give them something that you both can talk about in a legible way that everyone understands, and you just get to what I can do. This is what I can do. This is the things I can build. The second thing it does, if someone asks you a technical question about your stack, and this is why your stack has to align when you apply for a job, is that you can take that question and then show them how to answer to that question in the code base of the project that you just showed them. And to me, I can't tell you how many times I'd say, we've told students, for the love of God, demo during an interview, please, you know, because like you've missed 4, And I've been saying this for 4 times, but just for this 5th time,
please try it.
Just do it. Just do it, and just like throw caution to the wind, and then they come back with the same result. Wow, Bobby was right about that. Like, if I demo, I get a better response. 100%, yeah. And I don't know why this is really looked at upon as like this crazy secret advice, or it's like you can't do that in an interview. It breaks some kind of social norm to demo during an interview.
Right.
You always demo. You got to understand, when you go into an interview, it is a sales process that you're trying to win a job that's going to pay you an annual salary of X. You got to demo, man. You have to sing for your supper, as they say in sales. You've got to do it. And if you don't, then you're at the mercy of the interviewer to see if your interview questions were sufficient or not. And that's why we fail a lot, because they'll ask us 20 random questions. We get 19 to 20 right. And they're like, they didn't know what a string was, really. He didn't know that. He should have known that. When you could have just demoed something and remove all of the risk out of hiring you, because they're like, well, you built that. Okay, at least he knows how to, he's functional, he's productive.
Right, that's what you have to prove, isn't it? You have to prove that you can do the job. And the easiest way to do it isn't to talk about it, it's to show somebody that you've done it. Yeah,
you got to prove that you can do the job in the stack that they want you to be in.
Right.
And that's why stack matters. When you interview, your skill set has to align with the job. And so what I would say is, if you're interviewing and you've made 1,000 apps at this point, stop with the nonsense. Look at your stack, understand your stack, and only apply jobs that have that stack. Reduce the number of applications down to like just matches to what you have. Second, look at the years they're asking for. If they're asking for, and this is your first dev job, anything over 2, you're probably not going to get it. All right. So stay in 2 and under, maybe 3. If you have a really strong business project, Coder Foundry, we do 3 and under, because we have really strong business projects that can like scale us up. And then just do that. The second thing that people don't do is they don't call. They don't follow up at all.
Yeah.
So you don't know if your app got through. Just because you apply to LinkedIn or Indeed job posting does not mean the hiring manager on the other end ever saw your app, because they screen them out based on skill set or certain questions.
Yeah, so talk about, you just hired somebody at
I just did.
You
from a bootcamp, no less.
Right. You're right.
Not from Coder Foundry.
From a different bootcamp. Yeah. So you just hired somebody. So talk about that. What was that process? How did that work? Because we talked about this, because you were like, because we talked about the number of applicants or whatever, and you're like, I don't think that number's true. What do you think about that?
So one thing that we noticed right away is that when we go to Indeed or LinkedIn, and you can go look at our job postings, the job posting said 500 people applied to this job. And so I go ask the recruiter, I'm like, hey man, did 500 people apply to this job? Like what? Like we only looked at 6 resumes. She says, well, she called into Indeed about that. And then she's found out that we have filters on our end that says I only want this years of experience, only want this location, and they need to have these questions answered. And so there's just pre-screening questions. Okay. So the resume comes in and they count it as an application.
Right.
It never passes any of the screening questions. We never see it. Yep. The second thing that I think is happening Indeed, and like, don't sue me Indeed, I don't know if this is happening, but I think it is, is that they are auto-applying people to jobs. The reason is because when you pay based on the number of applications you're sent, and you have 24 hours to reject them, or you have to pay for it. So there's a fee associated with this when you post a job. Right. And so we have to go through those every 24 hours looking and say, no, yes. And so if we don't do that, they just take them all as doing that. So I think they auto-apply people. The reason I think this is because we caught a candidate that was an absolute match for what we were doing. Said yes to everything, wanted everything we had, and we call him and he didn't know who we were. And we're like, you just applied to this 2 minutes ago. Like, we called you as soon as it hit us. How do you not know who we are? And then I realized, like, oh, he didn't know he applied for this. And that's where the disconnect is. And this is why, if you're out there looking and a recruiter calls you seemingly out of the blue and you're like, these recruiters so rude, calling me during my day, getting in my way, and like you see their rants on you. That's because Indeed's auto-applied you to something. You didn't know you'd been applied to it. And then they're calling, asking you for a job. And that's why they're so aggressive, because they think that you want it. And then you don't even know what they're talking about. Like, like, so like, that's why the disconnects happens in some of these conversations. So we realized that there's a lot of auto applies in there. So what we do in our language now, when we call a recruiter a person that's applied, our first sentence is, "Hey, I'm from Coder Foundry. This is the job that we have. It looks like you applied to this. Did you?"
Right.
And we're trying to figure out, like, if not, we can, if you're interested or not, we're just going to get off the phone and let you get back to your day. That's what we do. That's how we kind of recruit people in. And so what we've noticed is that there's a lot of auto applies coming on. They're trying to find matches for you using their algorithm. And then that leads to some kind of uncomfortable conversation sometimes when people didn't apply. Second, what it does is discourages job seekers. So job seekers look at this, 500
because you see the big
applied.
number at the front. Yeah.
I'm not applying. And we've had people at Coder Foundry do that. And I keep telling them, like, that number's false. Don't worry about the number. Like, not all those people are qualified. Indeed's raising money for each job posting they have. And they're trying to show value for their job posting service. And that metric is for the job poster, not the job seeker.
Yep. So
that we can go look at it. Oh, yeah, okay, that worked. Okay, I paid $1,000 for that. Okay, right. Yeah. So that's kind of how it works. And so you need to just ignore that number entirety and apply. The second thing that you need to be doing, if you're surely looking for a job, is you need to have a 24-hour search, which means you set up alerts in Indeed for like 5 or 6 keywords, and you search for postings in the last 24 hours. And you do this every day. So you get up in the morning at 8 a.m., you spend 2 hours looking through just the latest and try to be the first in and not look at something that's 8 days old because they may have already filled it. Doesn't mean you don't apply. The second thing you need to do is once you apply, call that company right off the bat.
Because we talked about this. You didn't get a single call, did you?
None. I had to call every one of them. Not a single call. I had to call every one of them, and people don't do it. What you need to understand is on the flip side, and not every company is the same. Some are sophisticated, some are not. But when we talk about ATS scanners, that's usually at the Indeed level for most people. And they're looking at this app that brings in applications that pass the screening process for them. But if you call in, they can look further into it and go, "What was your name?" And they type their name in. "Oh, I see your resume here." You see what just happened, Kevin? You pulled your resume out of this stack of 500 people. And now at least they looked at it, and then they can maybe forward it on to the next step or whatever. The other thing that you look at, if your resume does not have the skills name checked in it, it's never going to get past an HR screen. Yep. So if they're trying to hire a .NET dev and you don't have .NET on your resume, it's never getting through anything because they don't know enough to make a judgment call. And they're the first step. And what the hiring manager is going to say, only send me people that have .NET and these keywords on it. I'll look at those. And so you need to make sure your stack aligns with the job that's being posted in. If you think that you align in, but you don't have it exactly on your resume, you have to call. You have to reach out and pull them off and tell them why you're a fit. But if you can do that in your resume level, I think that helps you a lot.
Also, you touched on something here too. The calendar time versus seat time thing matters here too. Yeah. In terms of, like, we see people saying, like, I've been looking for a job for 3 years. Like, yeah, but how much active time during that 3 years have you actually looked for a job? What's the number of hours? If it's once a week?
100 hours. So, like, spend 100 hours doing it. What we tell a Coder Foundry student is, like, we need to get you to 5 interviews because you're going to fail 4, and you hopefully win the 5th one. The reason you fail 4 is because you won't listen to me when you demo. And I say, the quicker you demo, the quicker you'll get hired. But every single student, they get in there and they panic, they freeze, and they whatever. And they'll go, what is a string? A string is a collection. It's an array of characters. Like.
Yeah, you feel like you've got to fit this mold, don't you? And it is tough. Right. And we say this all the time. You've got to be brave. Being brave is
gotta be brave, man. It's so, like, and then finally you get to the point where I got to eat, man. So I'm going to demo, and then they land. All right. So, like, the quicker you demo, the better you're at demoing. Is the other thing. Interviewing is a skill that you need to develop and practice. So here's my advice: if you don't go to Coder Foundry, this is what you need to do. Take your stack, and if you don't know what it is, you better understand it. Understand your stack, where you fit in the marketplace. Google the top 20 questions. So if you're coming out as a React dev, Google the top 20 interview React questions and ask yourself the question, can I answer all those? practice them. The second level is, can I demonstrate the answer to those in some kind of project that I've written? If you can't, build a project that can. That answers all of these questions. Then what you've done is, if you take the top 20 interview questions, you're almost guaranteed on the first question you get asked will be one of those. And if you could take that one question and turn it into a demo, you have a much better chance of winning. You answer one question with a demo, and then they answer all their other questions about your software, and you should be able to answer those because you wrote it. That's our approach here. That's what works. I promise you it works. Like every time, it works. Now, some people are terrible at demoing. You got to practice.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to practice.
It's a skill.
It's a skill, and then it takes them a little time to get there doing it. Now, the other thing that we do see from this is job hunters. They get a rejection after an interview and they quit. They clam up and they can't take rejection. And that's why I tell everyone, I was like, let's go 5 times and then let's see what we're doing. If you're on Zoom, we tell students to do this. If you get a Zoom or Teams meeting, record that interview and then show it to your instructor, your mentor, or whatever, and then take a.
It's an improvement opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah, man. Just like in sports, man. We got to watch the coach's tape, Right,
right.
What do you mean you didn't know what a string was? The coach is going backwards and forwards. How did you not know that? Why didn't you demo here? Let's go, get it done. So that's what we do.
Let me ask you this.
All
We've
right.
seen this a lot. So it's again from our friend Typical Lunchbox here.
Okay.
Basically advising somebody in chat, you don't need the bootcamp. This information is all online for free, even cheaper courses as well. What do you think about that? We see that a lot.
Let's talk about that. So let's say that that's true. Let's just say that it's all free. Okay. And there is a lot of free information out there. You can go to YouTube, you can go to Free Code Camp. There's a lot of free out there. You don't need the boot camp, brother.
Yep.
The problem is, if you don't think you need a teacher, people underestimate the value of a teacher, an instructor that can help you when you get stuck. Just because you can watch a thing about .NET 8 on a video about the Blazor render modes, just because you can watch it doesn't mean you understand how it works, because there's lots of questions that come up and there's gaps in all these videos that an instructor answers. Every single person, I think, needs a teacher, a coach, or a mentor to be able to do this, but you can try. And there is a certain subset of people that can do it.
Definitely.
Right?
The same guy that we said that comes to us is like, you can just hand the book. It's the same person. You can hand them the book. They can go with whatever. They can have a free course. They can do whatever. They can all self-study, and but we know, because we've seen it, that it's about this amount of people.
Right. It's small. So what we really need, most of us really need, is we need a coach that will help us get to class and make sure we keep on our schedule. Okay. We need a mentor and a teacher, and the teacher can say, this is what you're doing wrong. This is what you need to do. A mentor says, hey, I need you to demo in the next interview. You need to do that. You're blowing your chances here. This is what the mentor does. And so you need all 3 of those roles in order to do it. There are some people, and I'm telling you, that they talk instinctively in examples. Most of us don't. If you're asked a question, we try to answer that question directly, because through high school, especially in the US, through high school and college, you're asked multiple choice questions, you answer them. And they treat the interview the same way, and they don't talk in examples. They also don't build anything that they can show. And so while you can go to a free course, you absolutely can, that free course, you got to build something you can show. And you've got to figure out what your stack is and put it all together, figure out your own curated list of courses, because it's not just one course. I mean, if you really took our Bootstrap, it's not one course, it's a collection of a lot of things that we put together with HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript, and then we have C#. And inside C#, there's a lot of nuance inside of front end. Now with Blazor, you got back end, web API, we also have server-side function. There's just a lot that you have to know in order to do it. And you'd have to collect all of those courses together to form your own curriculum. While it is possible, you don't have anyone that really asks about that.
I would also say this is the thing where it's we always tell people try this thing first, but here's the downside to that too, though. A self-learner, the failure rate for self-learning, which is never a published thing ever because nobody ever talks about it, is absolutely massive. And I bet you right now, everybody here right now, I guarantee you have if you've ever bought a course on Udemy, you have unfinished courses in Udemy. I guarantee it. You've never done the whole thing because that's just how it is. You get to a point and you just quit doing it for whatever reason, or you get to a point where you can't get past the barrier and you just quit. And that's the problem. The quit rate is so high for self-learning that we just don't talk about it, apparently. But
we don't.
All we do is talk about the people who are successful.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not regulated.
Yeah.
It's the quit rate's really high because people don't care about that. They just sell the course. But I would say I don't know typical Lunchbox from, I don't know who he is, but like I would say, are you working as a dev? Did you get a job? I mean, like, if you did, great. Explain to them how you broke in. But tell them that it's all free, you don't need it, doesn't really help that.
It's a bad look for most people. Most people will fail
able to do it that way. So, like, a lot of us need a coach, a teacher, a mentor to do stuff. Like, if we want to learn to lift weights, it'd be great if I could go to the gym and someone could show me what to do. You know,
it's the Karate Kid thing, isn't it? It's Danielson with the book versus Mr. Miyagi coming along. Yeah. Same thing.
Right. You're going to do it quicker with a coach or a teacher. You're going to have to take a lot of missteps and a lot of misdirection, and it's going to take you a year or more to do it by yourself. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Simon says he collects unfinished courses like they're Pokemon. Simon, we all do. That's we all do. If you go, I don't want to. You don't want to see my Udemy. It's not pleasant. But I don't think anybody's is, because self-learning is this, like, it's way more difficult because you're right. You don't have a mentor saying you got this. It's you. And there's certain people that will say you got this and then don't need that. But it's very, very few. And most people go through this process of, like, they go down the self-learning path because somebody on social media told them that was the best way and the only way to do it. Well, guess what? They get to this point where they can't do it, and then they just quit because, well, this person over here told me this is the best way to do it. I can't do it, therefore, it's not for me. I can't do it. Whereas if they had a teach, coach, or a mentor, they probably could break that barrier and maybe could do it.
Right. Tell them what they're missing. What's the information that you're missing? Yep. A lot of times in these courses, you got to realize a lot of courses out there in the coding courses are built for people that already know how to code. And so there's a lot of assumptions that they don't put in there because it takes entirely too much time to record all that stuff. Trust me, I've made it, and it's really hard. Like, because you've got to go through every single thing, like questions you get. And the only way you know how this works, is if you sat down in your life and try to teach someone to code that has no knowledge of it, and you'll realize, like right away about some of the frustration. Like, what do you mean you don't know what a folder is? Like, just right click and explore, man. And like, I don't know, I've never made a folder. I'm coming from a Mac, and we don't do that. Like, okay, all right. So, and then, you know, pathing, and how does pathing how does that match with project structure? Like, what do you mean / the folder name?
We talk about things like that all the time. Yeah. There's a million things you take for granted when you talk about this stuff, and it's like such obvious. You totally overlook it, and you don't even think it's even a skill set, and it's 100% part of the skill set.
Right. Whereas most courses are performance art, which I'm trying to do the exact same thing, where you always are typing in the best case scenario, and you don't show the mistypings. You just type it in and say, here's what you need to do. And you try to give the best explanation you want. In a in-person course, if you take it through Coder Foundry, we don't type it for you. We make you type it.
Warts and all, isn't it? It's everything.
It's like, oh, well, you know, I'm missing this / over here, you know, on my close, on my div, you know, you need to close your div. How do those things nest? And so there's just HTML that's confusing to people. And then when you get into common syntax errors that you'll find in C#, you know, spellings, you know, case sensitivity, you know, there's just a lot of things that people need to know, but they don't know because they come across a lot more problems than are presented in any self-paced course. And that's why I think they quit. They get frustrated, like, man, I guess I'm not smart enough to do this. And actually they probably are. They just need a little more direction. Right. And I would say a lot of structure too. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, keep doing that. Okay, let's repeat that. Okay, now do this and do this and do this. And then you come out with, and that's what a teacher does. And if you don't think you need a teacher in life, you're like, come on, man, why do we go to grade school? Why don't we just like stay at home and never go to class whatsoever, and we'll learn how to read? We'll just do it, like, because I'm going to teach
we'll just get myself. A book and teach myself.
Yeah, how to read, you know, and coding is funny that we want to self-paced, one of the more complicated things to learn. all by herself. We don't need any help whatsoever. The other thing too that I see commonly is people never attribute their success to the things they've learned. And so like you need to know where you got knowledge from so that you can continue to learn that way. But people say, I went to this boot camp, I learned nothing at all, zero, zilch, nada. I got a job, but I did it all by myself, and it's like, that seemingly is like this badge of honor you want. But like, did you learn nothing? Zero? Like they didn't teach you anything.
The question is, would you have done it without it? And sometimes people are like, yes, I would. Like, really? You're not objectively thinking about that. You actually
think about where you gained information from and what you learned. So you should be able to take even a bad boot camp and go, well, okay, I got this and this and this. I know what I know, and now I can add to that somewhere. Because if you don't know what you don't know, how are you ever going to add to it to improve your skills? What is it that you learned at that point? And so maybe it is lacking and you don't get a job with it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying is you got to know where your level of skill is at so you can take the correct next step to get higher and higher until you're up here. But I think that people don't really think about what they've learned while they were taking a course, whatsoever, coming to boot camp. It's astronomical when people say we didn't teach people anything at Coder Foundry when they say that. And I'm like, really?
So we have had somebody say that.
What did you do here for 600 hours? Like,
right.
Did you not pay attention at all? I mean, like, we just said nothing. We looked at each other all day long. I mean, like, is that what happened? Nothing happened whatsoever.
I think some people have ulterior motives. I'll just say
exactly.
that.
They want their money back. I get it.
Right. Let's see what Paul says here. Paul said, what I learned from you guys is to build things that are understood by folks that are hiring you. And then he says his job that he found now, he got by building a bug tracker because he got that idea from you.
With the tech required by that company, yes. Because I mean, that's important because he matched the stack with what they were doing. I think that's what you do. And so like we teach .NET. It's not the only way to get there. But what you have to understand about Coder Foundry, we have to pick something. We have to put our flag in something so that we can have a way to put our skill set. We don't want to learn everything. I mean, that's impossible in 3 months. Right. It's not learning everything.
Right. Let's talk about this real quick too. So, City says, I think the point of stopping when getting stuck Coder Foundry when setting up Postgres and using C#, I'm just getting back to it so I can finish. If I had the time, I would just go to a boot camp. So I would also say there's plenty of reasons like you maybe don't want to go to a boot camp too. Like maybe if time.
My question is, you should have asked a question on the Discord about setting up Postgres. We actually have videos on that.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, the question part aside,
that's a small problem.
It is. That shouldn't hold you up.
This is why teacher helps though, because you get stuck and you're like, I don't know how to do that. Like that seems like hard, and then I look at it and like, bro, you should. We can do that.
100%.
Ask a question right now on Discord. We know how to do that.
But I would say like there's a couple reasons like not to go to a boot camp. One is time commitment. It is a time commitment. Coder Foundry is a time commitment
for us.
Yeah, it's a full-time gig. It's basically it's not part-time. You don't do it on the side. It's not nights and weekends. It is full-time. It's basically a replacement for your job. I get it. Not everybody can do that. And then there's a monetary commitment too on the side of you're maybe not working during that time, and it's going to cost you something to go. We try and make that easy by doing loans, and we've done ISAs in the past and those kind of things. We've always tried to make that as easy as possible, but for some people, again, that's not. There's some people that come to us that we don't think can do it. That we're just like, we're not going to take your money. It's wrong for us to take your money. We are not going to do it. Some people have literally like been really, really upset with us that we wouldn't let them in.
Right.
I remember one in particular that ended up going to another boot camp. And I felt bad because it's like, I understand you want to buy the product. We just can't sell it to you because it's not going to be successful. We don't think you can pass. And it wasn't successful for them. And it sucks.
But
that's just how it is.
So tell you what we do. And the barriers that we put up to get into the full-time boot camp. Self-paced, you can go to the link right now and sign up. We don't do that because it's all self-paced. You can do whatever you want. Yep. If you want to come to the in-person boot camp, you have to take a dev quiz from us, okay? And that quiz tests abstract thinking. We think in order to learn this in 3 months, abstract thinking is the skill that you need to be walking around with. Yep. Which means that you abstractly solve problems, which is you don't have to be told exactly how to solve the problem. You have experience and knowledge, and you're like, I think I kind of know how that works.
Yeah, you have a framework or a model, and you apply this model to a different question.
Right. And people think, oh, that's obvious. It's not always obvious. Like there's a lot of concrete learners out there. I think high school in the US is taught concretely, like memorize a set of facts, regurgitate on the test, we'll give you an A. Yeah. It's a history quiz on everything, you know. Yeah. Even in college, you know, in some CS programs, like my son went to a CS program in college, and then I remember looking at one of his quiz, and they had a multiple choice test on HTML, and I'm like, why? Like, why? You know, I don't need to memorize the attribute value on HTML. Like, do I need to know that? Yeah, but like, it'd be better if it says build this form.
Right.
Like, why do I need to? Because it's easy to grade. I mean, I understand why they ask it, but like, it's easy to grade. But like, coding's not like that. Coding is like, solve this problem. You know this kind of stuff. Solve this problem. Take what you know over here, apply it to here, and it's really hard to do. And not everyone can do that instantly right now. So we take
very easy for some people and very hard for others. Some people are like, wow, this test is difficult. Other people are like, duh, why am I doing this dumb quiz? Like, I've aced it. Like,
I
aced it. And those are the people we're like, congratulations, you've got the skill set.
We think you can do it.
It wants to be easy, seemingly.
The second thing we do is we give 2 coding challenges out. Okay, and these are things that you watch a video, regurgitate the instructions. We want to know, can you take instruction? Do you have attention to detail? And can you make the thing? All right. And you have to do 2 of them. And so that, and then when you come in a personal interview with me, then I find out, like, what are you really trying to achieve? What do you think I'm going to do? What are you going to do? Like, why are you doing this? And like, I try to figure out if I think you're a good fit for this or not. You know, if you think that this is instant oatmeal, you don't get in. So now I'm telling the secrets, and so people can game the system, but you can't game it. I can tell it. I mean, I've done it a lot. I'm not saying I'm perfect.
Spoke to a lot of people.
I've spoke to a lot of people and a lot of different things that happen, you know, and you just can't do it. So you can't like attend part-time to a full-time boot camp and fake it till you make it, and then Coding Foundry will give you a result. It won't happen. And so we have people that don't attend class, and we get on them, we call them and say, hey, man, if you don't come, we're going to have to cut you. And we've cut people out of the class before. I will say this, if we cut you out of the class, we just get rid of your loan. So
it doesn't cost you anything. Yeah, that's something else.
We're never going to like disadvantage someone financially because we don't think they can do it. Like, we just get your loan.
No, unofficially, we've had people do a lot of the course, like, and not pay a penny, because we think it's like, I don't know. We just think it's wrong to do that. But if you complete the whole course, you're on the hook.
You're on the hook at that point. Let's go to market. Let's try to get a job. Let's work on it.
If we think we've taught you enough to get to the point where we think you can get a job, then now it becomes a you problem, technically. Right. Although I will say it's not 100% a you problem, because that's something that we help with too, right? Like we have people that help with this, job assistance. We talked about this a lot on other stuff, but that's something we help with too. So we have.
So here's our process to find a job for a junior dev, okay? And you can mimic this at home if you don't want to come to Coding Foundry and you don't believe anything I'm saying, and you listen to Lunchbox and he's saying learn on your own, okay? If you're learning on your own, you've got to do this. Number 1, you have to apply for a job that matches your stack. If you don't know what your stack is, that's job 1, figuring out what that is. Yep. Does your resume, your LinkedIn profile scream developer? If you don't know that, get someone to look at it. Second, does your portfolio, is it modern, well designed? If it's not, go fix it. If you don't know if it is or not, get someone to look at it. Third, your projects need to be aligned with the stack that you're applying for. So if you're applying for React jobs, that portfolio better have React projects on it. If it doesn't, you're wasting your time applying for that role, okay? And finally, when you apply, you need to call, email, or message on LinkedIn and try to pull yourself out of the stack of resumes they have. And that's what we do. So we get the student to apply, we turn around and call the company directly as soon as they apply. Say, hey, Frankie just applied, and here's 3 reasons why we think he's a fit for the role. We think he's worth the interview, and we try to engineer interviews. Are we successful at doing that with every single call we make? No. Sometimes they don't call us. Sometimes they don't talk to us. And sometimes they call us 14 days later and go, hey, we're interested in John. Remember you called. And we have to go back and look at our notes of all the companies that we've called. It is a collection of effort that you do over a pretty lengthy time to be able to land a job. So we have to put a lot of effort into like nurturing each one of these leads into an interview. And then we've got to win an interview. The other thing that we see happen all the time is if you get an offer, take it.
Oh yeah.
Take the first freaking offer. Like, we have it now in the boot camp where like every boot camp, someone turns an offer down, and it extends their job search by 3 to 6 months sometimes, because we don't know what the market's going to hold. Just because you got one interview and one acceptance doesn't mean there's 8 more behind that over the next 5 days. It doesn't mean that. And you also got to know where your skills fits in salary wise in the market itself. And so you can't ask for 30K above what they've had the posted job for. You can't do that. It's not going to happen. As much as society tells you that you're worth it, until you have a working job and work as a dev, that's when you can see the increases. At the first one, first job is just for the experience. And so like your goal when you look at this is like, I want to get 1 year of experience as a coder, and then I'll go back to market and increase my salary or my pay or my benefits or my location or whatever it is. If you live in a small nowhere town, you're probably gonna have to move. We tell people that you got to live in a city. That's just the way it is. Tech people live in cities and tech companies are in cities.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's not impossible, but it's
harder.
Way harder.
Yeah. Now, COVID spoiled us where everything was remote for about 24 months. That's no longer the case. And it doesn't matter how much we complain about it. It's not going to change. There's always going to be on-site roles. Now, as you increase in experience and you're like 5 years into this, you can be more picky. You also probably have a job where you can say, I can turn down 8 things and wait till that sweet remote job comes in, because there's some of them out there. For juniors, you got to take what you can get, especially early on in your career, and just work on site. And, it's not immoral to work on site, man. Like, just because I said work on site, don't scream at me and say that I'm like immoral. Like, it's not up until pre-COVID, everything was on site, and also working from home isn't the nirvana everyone thinks it is. You don't learn nearly as much. You're way
For a junior, it can be much harder, can't it?
It's way harder. And then if you're in person, you can build relationships, which all this is built on relationships, easier than you can in the random Zoom meeting, So I think it's better early career to be on site than it is off site. But you do you. So for Coder Foundry, we're going to tell people what to do.
Let's do this question from Nigel, because I like this one, because we literally talked about this probably maybe 5 minutes before we even came on here. So if I work Monday through Friday 9 to 5 and commit 2 hours every evening, how long might the self-pace take to complete? I really
how long
need
would it take
to
you to do
myself.
600 hours of coding? That's the metric.
Because that's what it is. What do you think about this idea of 2 hours? I
don't like it. But
it's on the low side, isn't it? We've talked about this before. We've said we kind of think of it as being maybe double that in blocks of kind of 4 hours is kind of ideal.
Here's what I'm going to say, Nigel. You're working 9 to 5 and we're tired, but like hopefully you're like, I really need to get out of whatever this 9 to 5 is, or you wouldn't be looking at it. And you're like, what will I need to do? I need to sacrifice something else to do it. And so that means most of your free time will be committed to doing this. So like, let's say you get off at 5, you get a 45-minute commute, you get home at 6. What I'm thinking is you're eating rice and beans at the desk while you're trying to get into your coding thing, and you're sitting there till 10:30 at night, and then you go to bed. And then you can drastically reduce the amount of time, but like 6 to 8 so that you can watch Netflix. You think cancel all your subscriptions to everything and just do this. I can tell you, Coder Foundry students, we're working, just to tell you what we do. We're 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the mornings, okay? That's Eastern Standard Time. If you're on the West Coast, that's 7 a.m., okay? But it's 10 a.m. to 6, 8 hours every single day, all right? And there's a lot of times, and some of you may be watching it, you're in the current cohort, that at 6 p.m. we give you something else and say, hey, I need you to do this tonight. Let's talk about it in the morning. There are a lot of times on Friday evening where we say, here's your quiz for the evening. You got the rest of the weekend to do it. So they're working on Saturday, sometimes Sunday. And so when they end up this, it's 600 to 700 hours of seat time that they're doing. But that's what they signed up for. That's what you need to sign yourself up for. So I would say if you got Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, maybe 2 hours, 3 nights a week, but that all day Saturday should be coding, and then sometimes on Sunday too.
And this is not because let me just caveat something here.
Yeah.
This isn't because it's like a grind mentality thing.
No, it's not grinder.
It's got nothing to do with that. It's to do with when you sit down for a longer period of time with something like coding, it takes a second to kind of ramp up. It takes a second for your mind to get in a groove of something. And by the time you've got there, you're an hour in. You're 90 minutes in. You're like, right, now I'm rolling. And then you've got to be like, done. And then guess what happens next time? You've got that same uptime again to get going again. So it's more about like these blocks of time where, remember there was this 1 hour a day thing for a while. We're just like, that's the dumbest thing ever. It's going to take you 40 minutes to get going. Like, you got 20 minutes of coding and then you got to stop.
So what I would say is 700 hours is the kind of the rule, the guide. Could you do it quicker? Could you do it longer? Yeah. What I would say is if you have longer blocks of time, you're going to be more productive. And you can potentially reduce that a little bit more, but like if you're like 2 hours and that's all you're doing, which is 10 hours a week, that's going to be 70 weeks.
Yeah, that's a long
time. That's a long time. And the question is, during that 70 weeks, will you quit? I don't know. How committed are you? Like, is it a lifestyle or is it something that you got to do? Is it just for fun or something you absolutely have to do? In other words, like we've talked to people, man, it's like, my body can't do construction anymore. I've got to find something else. I've had 2 knee surgeries, a back surgery, and I need to find a different lifestyle or I'm not gonna be able to frame houses anymore. And those are the type of people that come in and they're super motivated. We talked to a DJ that says, I'm in my 40s. I cannot work from 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. every night. It's just not, when I was a young guy, it was great, but now I want to be awake during the day. I can't stay up all night. And so like, there's lots of stories that we've heard where they had to be motivated, that they had to do it. And that's where you need to get to, where this is something that you must do. That's something that you want to do. And the quicker you get to that decision in your head, we can solve anything at that point. People that lose weight say, I have to. You've had a life scare or a health scare or whatever. And it's like, I've got to do this. Got to get my blood pressure down, and that's when lifestyle change usually is committed to, I have to do it. And that's not something I want to do. So want isn't a plan. Put a plan together and you can achieve what you want to do. And that's really not rise and grind mentality. This is just the way it is. And a lot of people don't want to put in the effort to do this. Therefore, they rail against advice like this from me. Like, well, Bobby's just this rise and grind guy, like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm telling you what it's necessary to do in order to do it. It doesn't matter if you want to do it like less, go for it. I don't want to learn as much. I'm going to go with just HTML and CSS. All right, go for it. Are there email developer jobs out there? Yeah. You better be a really good designer. You better know everything there is about email in order to get that job. And it's, they're available. Are there 15,000 of them right now for that? No. Are there 15,000 web dev jobs in the US right now? Yeah, open right now. You can go look on Indeed. There's way more opportunity out there, but the skill set's higher. It's up here. It's not down here. Just because you can place an H1 code on a screen doesn't mean that you can get a job. You got to know more. So
cool. Well, hopefully there was some good stuff in here. I think there was some good advice in here.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Hopefully
we'll see if people come back and watch it. I predict right now. Now we're at the end of this. I predict right now. Let's say I'm going to give it. Let's say 24 hours. There's some comment down below that says, what's the title of this video again? Why Bootcamp's still working 24? There's some comment down below that says something along the lines of Bootcamps suck.
Right, yeah.
It's your money or something like that.
Right.
We get them all the time.
So if you don't want to do it, I'll sum it up this way. I think you need a teacher. I really do. Whether you come to CoderFound or not, I really think to learn how to code, you need some kind of teacher. Can you get that from a self-paced course? Yeah, if you know what you want to do. Pick a stack, learn that stack. And you can try to do it self-paced. It's going to take you a lot longer. Boot camps, interview them, talk to them, figure out what you're going to get out of them. There's going to be a cost involved, but like, do the benefits outweigh the costs? I think at CoderFoundry, absolutely 100%. But like some of them aren't as good. I get it, So the way I said is like, hey, is it pre-recorded material totally? If it is, just take self-paced stuff. Is there an instructor there? Can I talk to them? Do I have to get office hours or are they there anytime I need them? And then finally, what am I building? What do I get out of it? What can I show an employer that I have out of this to win? And I think if you go to the CS route, you can. It's going to take you 4 years. does the CS degree hold value? It holds some value for the first job or first several jobs. It's not this lifelong ticket to financial freedom that people think it is. You've got to build skills in this industry in order to be successful. However you do it, you got to know how to code to be able to do this. It doesn't matter if you went to MIT, which is probably the most, maybe than Stanford, it doesn't matter where you went. If you don't know how to do the job, the interview, you only get so far through the interview process. So that's my 2 cents, man. Hopefully it helps.
There you go. I like it. Well, we'll be back again at some point to do another one of these.
Keep
Maybe
coding.
there's some other topics in here we could talk about, definitely. Maybe there's some jump off ones here. There's some stuff we didn't even get to that I had noted down. So we'll do it next time.
Yeah, do it next time.
Yeah, cool.
See you next week, guys. Keep coding.
Catch you later.